I'd like to get everyone's attention. If you could grab an agenda and the packet of information in the back room and get settled at one of the tables. Again, my name is Patrick Richardson. I'm the Development Services Director for the City of Temecula, and this is our third workshop. I want to welcome everyone. This is going to be a fun-packed evening in terms of looking at different districts in the Jefferson corridor area and soliciting your feedback and input so we can move the process forward. So at that, I'll turn it over to Pat with MIG, and she'll get started.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. We have a brief introductory presentation for you just to recap what we heard last time, and then we have a pretty detailed presentation that goes over the whole concept of districts and also gives you some insights. And what we'll be doing, we'll have the presentations, and then later on we'll have roundtable group discussions at your tables, and they'll be interactive with a facilitator and a recorder, and then we'll report out. So we'll be able to get your information real time. We're really looking forward to that. So welcome to Visioning Workshop number 3. How many of you were at the previous, how about Visioning Workshop number 1? Who was at number 1? Okay, number 2? And number 3, I guess all of you can raise your hands. So the purpose of this workshop is to review the study purpose and background, to summarize the key findings, which I'll be doing, and then explain the purpose and function of districts, and talk about the vision and opportunities that we might have for the districts, and then talk about the next steps. So the study purpose and objectives, and those of you veterans have heard this before, it's to really develop a vision for Jefferson Corridor, one that preserves and enhances the assets and really makes it an economically viable and vital area, and really promotes that kind of strategic economic development where it really is oriented toward outcomes, and enhance the property values and also be oriented toward transit, so enhance the mobility options for transportation and highways. Now, many of you, I think, are very familiar with the Jefferson Corridor and know that we have some aging development with some outdated standards, and that we, right now, even though there's a lull, this is a time when planners who've been in this for several years, or many years, or people, you know, the economy goes up and down, and a great time to plan for something is when there's a lull and you expect an uptick. And also, there are some planned infrastructure improvements, such as highway improvements and street improvements. And just to get a whole synergy with the region, there's a whole Highway 395 corridor study that's being done cooperatively with the cities in this corridor, all the way from Elsinore down to here. So right now we're in the process of the vision, where we say where are we now and where do we want to be, and then get an implementation framework and strategies that'll lead to a specific plan for Jefferson Corridor. And where we are right now is that we did workshop number 1 in October, workshop number 2 in December, where we looked at placemaking. This time we're going to be looking at conceptual districts, and again, these are very conceptual, and that's where we're really looking for your input so that we can work with you to refine them in the future. Workshop number 4 on April 5th is going to deal with transportation and complete streets. And then number 5, we'll be looking at the market analysis and development scenarios, so see what's really economically viable for this corridor. And then workshop number 6 will be the visioning, policies, and case studies, and go into the development of the specific plan. And we have a website here. How many of you have visited envisionjeffersoncorridor.org? It's something that it's very interactive. We'll have summaries of the meetings, we'll have copies of the wall graphics that you'll see, and also documents, and have you be able to join in the discussion and comment on things. And so the key findings from Visioning Workshop number 2, don't worry, I'm not going to read this entire thing, but this is what Andy Pendoli and Rick Barrett are going to produce as a result of this workshop. It really is designed to capture your thoughts and visions, but the overall vision was that Jefferson Corridor is a really exciting destination. It's someplace where people come and see something that's really unique, but then it fits in with the surrounding areas. It doesn't clash with them. And it's really an economic driver and promotes and provides those kind of desirable uses that are here and starts organizing the corridor into districts or definable areas where things can be done. Urban design and placemaking, we talked about that as a way of really creating these desirable places where there's really like a city within a city, a definable area that has a mix of uses. And the design approach is to promote quality and creativity. You said that you wanted to have something that was flexible, organic, and adaptable, but still was lasting. And that's sometimes a tough thing to do, but it's something that definitely with the hands-on participation of the businesses and the community and the city together, it can be done, because we're in this for the long term. Another key thing that came out of the discussion last time was that there need to be some green spaces. There's this wonderful asset with the creek and the hills, but there needs to be a community character with new green spaces and connecting with Murrieta Creek. And some of the districts you'll see are designed to connect with Murrieta Creek, but we want to get your ideas on how that might be changed or reoriented. And again, use development toward the creek, but also to use trees that are an appropriate height so that maybe they provide shade, but they also don't mask the businesses or block the views. You'd like to see building heights and densities that capitalize on the openness that Temecula has for change, especially in this specific area, and want to get some taller buildings, but that are off the corridor, but still looking at maybe some higher buildings, but also they have to be financially viable, and that's always a big balance here. And provide green spaces and energy regeneration so that the buildings are able to be as self-sustaining as possible. The mobility, obviously, this is reducing traffic congestion, but also providing those connections. We heard a lot about east-west connections, walkability, and also, though, having enough parking, having parking spaces for retail, and we know that that's something that all of you discussed, those of you who participated in the Old Town visioning. And so next, that's what we heard. Is there anything that we said that you didn't think that quite this group or anybody who's participated previously, anything that just doesn't quite ring true to you or something that, because we want to make sure that we heard you correctly and that we're building on what we've heard as we go along. So any thoughts on that? And again, there's going to be a lot more opportunity for input, and what we want to do tonight is to give you an orientation toward districts, and Katie Innes, the chief planner for this project, is going to do that for you, and then Frank Miller is going to give you some more insights and models. So Katie, go right ahead, and I'll give you this.
Thank you, Pat, for that overview and recap of the first couple visioning workshops. The presentation that's before you tonight is going to focus on two different methods for identifying conceptual districts within the Jefferson Avenue study area. But before we begin to talk about how the study area could potentially be divided up into districts, I wanted to briefly define what a district is for the purposes of tonight's discussion. A district is a sub-area within a larger geographic area. Districts can be defined by the mix of land uses. For example, you may have a residential district, a commercial district, a mixed-use district. Districts can also be defined by their own unique character and defining physical attributes. For example, the massing and height of the buildings within the district, the sizes of the blocks, the street character, the types of public open space, as well as the architectural style of the buildings themselves. Just a quick note, later on in the discussion, when Frank Miller is speaking to the group, he will discuss in detail the first three bullet points, but we're not going to be really talking about public open space or architecture in detail as part of tonight's discussion. That will be saved to be discussed at a later date when we begin to develop the specific plan. So we're going to be talking about two approaches to identifying potential districts within the study area. The first is going to be focused on a land use approach, and the second approach will focus on the physical form and character that we would like to see within the potential districts. And just as a note, these are not the only two ways that districts can be identified. There are a number of different ways, but for the purposes of tonight's discussion, these two are the ones that we're going to be focusing on. So the land use approach, just to kind of give you an overview, this approach will identify potential districts by defining what uses might go where. For example, over the course of these visioning workshops, we've heard from the community the desire to have mixed-use development, some urban residential development, maybe the creation of an arts district. So really, tonight's discussion is intended to define the potential location of the future land uses envisioned for the study area. And just a note related to the land use approach, the specific plan as we begin to develop the document is intended to allow for greater flexibility in land use and a wider array of land use options within the study district. So the concepts that we're presenting tonight, for example, we may identify an area as a hotel or restaurant district. That doesn't necessarily mean that the only uses allowed in that district are hotels and restaurants. Really, our intent is to start thinking about mutually supportive uses in a given area. So the second part of the presentation, which will be Frank Miller's portion, will begin to discuss and identify districts based on the physical form and character of what the districts may look like. And his approach is intended to define the potential districts by the physical look and aesthetic character desired at different locations within the study area. So not everything within the Jefferson Avenue study area will look the same. And the physical form will probably vary depending on where you are within the study area. So Frank's approach will try to define the physical form and character of the actual land uses within the potential districts themselves. So an important thing to keep in mind is the existing and future roadway network. And just to kind of recap, I know that during the first two workshops we did talk a little bit about infrastructure, but this is a map of the existing and future roadway network. As you can see, Jefferson Avenue is the main north-south arterial. We have a couple of existing east-west connections, Rancho California Road, Overland Drive, which connects from Commerce Center across Interstate 15 to Inez, and then Winchester Road, which connects from Diaz across to Inez. Additionally, we have some future east-west connections, which will be impacting the study area, the first of which is the extension of Rancho Way from Diaz Road across to Inez. Also, the extension of Overland Drive to the west from Commerce Center Drive connecting over to Diaz Road, and then also the French Valley Interchange Project, which will connect the east side of Temecula up near the Harveston area and Date Street across Interstate 15, connecting to Cherry Street, Jefferson, and then Cherry Street will eventually connect over to Diaz Road. In addition to the existing and future roadway network within the study area itself, we do expect an additional connection connecting the cities of Temecula and Murrieta at Jackson and Inez, and also the western bypass, which will be along Diaz Road to the west of the study area. And keeping this infrastructure in mind is very important because essentially it's the backbone of the study area. It allows for people to move not only within the study area itself, but also to access surrounding areas. So jumping into the land use approach, this next part of the slideshow will present 10 potential conceptual districts for the study area using land use as the primary method for identifying the districts. And just a really quick caveat, this is just a concept intended for discussion purposes only. It's not a plan that's set in stone. It's really just an idea that we wanted to throw out and hear your input. So District 1 has been identified as a full-service hotel, convention, and restaurant district. And this district has been located conceptually north of Rancho California Road, and up toward the intersection of Del Rio Road and Jefferson. And this district has been identified as a full-service hotel, convention, and restaurant district due to its close proximity to Old Town. Old Town is an existing tourist draw, it's a destination, and we thought having a hotel and convention and restaurant district immediately to the north of the Old Town area could make a lot of sense. Also, there are a number of existing hotels and restaurants clustered in this area. For example, we have the Spring Hill Suites Hotel, the Hampton Inn and Suites, Rosa's Tortilla Factory, and a future Crown Plaza hotel that's entitled in this area. And it seemed to make sense to kind of use that existing cluster as a basis for the creation of the district. Also, the district has close proximity to the freeway. It's easily accessible north and south. You can get into Old Town easily. You can access easily east and west, getting into kind of the employment and business district over to the east, which makes sense for people maybe traveling or staying in this hotel district and doing business in the adjacent area to the west. And also, this district provides the opportunity to capitalize on its visibility from the freeway. So people driving by, they can see that something is there and kind of draw them into the area that way. So these are just some photo examples of what we may see in a district like this. The first photo, that's a picture of the Hotel Solamar in San Diego. Photo 2 is a photograph of a Chili's restaurant with hotel units above, and this is in Santa Row in San Jose. Image 3 is of the Anaheim Convention Center, and image 4 is a picture of the U.S. Grant Hotel located in the Gaslamp District in San Diego. So the next district, District 2, has been conceptually identified as an urban residential and neighborhood serving mixed-use district. And this district is located immediately to the north of the previous one, from Del Rio Road and Jefferson Avenue up to Via Montezuma. And this district could potentially provide some urban housing options. As we've heard from the community, getting some residential down into this area may help promote evening and weekend activity, kind of support some of the existing commercial development that's existing in the Jefferson Avenue area. Also, this district is adjacent to Marietta Creek and to the future trail, which could potentially provide for good pedestrian access for people living in the area, connecting them along the trail as an alternative transportation method. If they want to walk or bike into Old Town, they're able to do it. They're able to get up into Marietta to the north and even over to the mall, kind of taking the trail northeast from this district. Also, this area's proximity to the hillside, it provides nice views for future residential development. And it also potentially could be compatible with the existing residential and mixed-use development in Old Town. This district also is in close proximity to the existing jobs cluster to the west, so people can live in this district and easily get over to the west side along Diaz Road, and this could potentially help with the jobs housing balance, people being able to live and work in close proximity to one another. So here's some photo examples. One, that's a picture of Camel View Village. It's a fully residential project in Scottsdale, Arizona. Image 2 is a residential mixed-use project located in San Alejo Hills, San Marcos. And this project has ground floor retail commercial with residential units above. Oops. Image 3 is the Village Apartments, and this is a fully residential project located near the Irvine Spectrum, so in close proximity to kind of an entertainment, retail, shopping district, again, allowing people to live, work, and play within close proximity. Image 4, that is a project called The Lofts, and it's also a mixed-use residential project located in Moonlight Beach, Encinitas. And again, it has ground floor retail commercial with residential units above. So District 3, we've identified as a conceptually employment, office, and education district. And this district is located east of Via Montezuma, kind of near the intersection of Jefferson and Via Montezuma. And this district builds upon the existing office and higher education uses that are clustered in this area. We have the Press Enterprise Building, the RANCON Building, University of Redlands has recently located in this area, along with a number of other financial and professional office type users, so it kind of made sense to use them as an anchor for this district. This district also has the potential to provide for an employment cluster in close proximity to future residential. So if we do end up with residential development occurring to the north of this district, you kind of have the synergy between an employment area and people living and even getting an education in close proximity. So here's some photo examples. One, that's a project in Maryland. It includes commercial, residential, and limited office. Image 2 is a photograph of the Bullock's Wilshire building in Los Angeles, and this is a great example of both an urban campus and a adaptive reuse project. This building actually operated as a department store for 6 years and has since been converted to Southwestern Law School. And 3, this is a photograph of Central Park West in Irvine. It includes high-rise office, along with some high and mid-rise residential and commercial development. District 4, we've identified conceptually as an industrial, automobile, and arts district. And this district is located near Commerce Center Drive, Enterprise Circle West, adjacent to Marietta Creek. And we've identified this district as such because there are a number of industrial and automobile-oriented uses that are clustered in this area. We went out and did windshield surveys. We counted over 70 automobile-oriented uses existing in the study area, and many of which are located in this cluster. Additionally, over the course of the 2 workshops, we heard the desire to create an arts district, and we thought compatible arts-related uses could potentially be complementary to the existing uses in this area. For example, you may have an art gallery, an art fabrication area, an art studio that could come into this area and make sense and be compatible with what's existing out there. Additionally, this area could provide the potential for live-work units and artist lofts, if indeed the vision included something like that. And it also provides direct access to the future Creek Trail, providing, again, that pedestrian connectivity. So here's some photo examples. The first one, this is a picture of a streetscape along Cedros Avenue Design District in Solana Beach. Photo 2, that is an eating area outside an existing art gallery in the Wynwood Arts District in Miami, Florida. And image 3 is also of Solana Beach, just a different portion of the district where they adaptively reused Quonset huts and converted them into commercial development. And in this case, they changed it over to a restaurant and tavern. District 5, we've identified conceptually as a hotel and restaurant district. And this district is located at the intersection of Overland Drive and Jefferson Avenue. And again, this district builds upon the existing hotels and restaurants clustered here. We have the Extended Stay America, the Holiday Inn Express, Best Western Country Inn, and various sit-down and drive-through restaurants all clustered in this area. This district also has good accessibility and circulation, allowing for people who come to this district to easily access the Promenade Mall and also Old Town relatively easily. This district also can capitalize on its visibility from the freeway, again, drawing people in as they drive by the 15, letting them know that something interesting is existing in this area. This district also could potentially present the potential for complementary residential uses. People could potentially live in this area, as well as other commercial uses that could support the hotel and restaurants. So some photo examples. The first one is a picture of the Mission Inn in Riverside. Photo 2 is kind of a bird's eye view of San Antonio, Texas. And this area, you kind of have a mix of commercial, retail, office, and restaurant users all kind of in close proximity. Image 3 is a photo of a hotel in Philadelphia. And image 4 is a picture of the Hard Rock Hotel in the Gaslamp District in San Diego. And this, in close proximity to the Hard Rock Hotel, you have the hotel itself, restaurants, residential, as well as nearby office. District 6 we've identified as a retail residential mixed-use district. And this is located in between the intersections of Winchester Road and Overland along Jefferson. And this district really builds upon the case studies that were presented at the last 2 visioning workshops, and could present the opportunity as Winchester Square Shopping Center revitalizes to really be the catalyst for this district. The district has good east-west circulation, good freeway access and visibility. It also presents the potential for future residential uses to complement the surrounding commercial businesses that exist or may come into the area in the future. And also the mixed-use component could present an interesting element to allow for residents to walk to nearby goods and services as opposed to getting into their car. So some photo examples. One, this is a mixed-use residential project in Encinitas, and it has a Whole Food grocery store on the bottom with residential above. Image 2 is a picture of Grandway in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, and this project includes mid-rise residential and commercial development. So again, commercial on the ground floor with residential above. Image 3 is a picture of the Burnside Rocket Building. This building was constructed in Seattle, Washington. It has flex office space for creative professionals, a design and animation studio, a winemaker, and a restaurant. And this building is especially unique because it has a green roof where vegetables and herbs are grown on the roof, and the restaurant will actually pick the vegetables and herbs and serve them in their restaurant. Image 4 is an example of a mid-rise residential project in Santana Row in San Jose. District 6 we've identified conceptually as a hotel and entertainment district, and this district is located east of Jefferson near the Winchester interchange. And again, this district has a number of existing hotels that can act as the district anchor. It also has direct freeway access and good east-west connectivity. So again, people staying in this area, if they're here for business, they can easily get to the west side, to the employment cluster to the west, or if they're here just as a tourist opportunity, they're able to get from this district easily over to the Promenade Mall and Old Town. This district also presents the potential for other complementary commercial uses, so maybe a restaurant, other retail users, shopping opportunities. And some example images. One, this is a photo of LA Live and the Nokia Theater in Los Angeles. Image 2 is a picture of the Grove, which combines shopping, entertainment, and dining opportunities all in close proximity. And 3 is a picture of the Pantages Theater in Los Angeles. So District 8 we've identified as an employment and office district. And this district is generally located near the Enterprise Circle North and South Loop. And this district also builds upon the existing office and employment clustered in this area. It also presents the potential for creekside development and that trail connection. It could provide an employment cluster in close proximity to future residential, so we may have a mixed-use area located to the south, or even residential development within this district itself. It also could provide a place for large employers to locate in the future. So here are some example images. One, that's a building in San Francisco, and it has a Safeway store on the bottom, so a retail user on the bottom with office users above, which is a little bit different than some of the other examples that we've shown where it's retail with residential. In this case, it's office above. Image 2 is a picture of a high-rise residential development. We thought this may be a good example to show if residential ended up near the creek, this is what it could potentially look like. Image 3 is a photograph from Hillcrest. The building includes commercial and residential development on the bottom with office above. And image 4 is a picture of a mid-rise mixed-use residential project in Denver, and the zoning district that it was constructed in is kind of a transitional zone. In the background, you can kind of see taller office buildings. So it transitioned from office into a residential mixed-use area in close proximity to the jobs cluster. So District 9, we've identified as an employment, office, education, and transit-oriented development district. And this district is located up near Cherry Street and Madison. And again, it builds upon the existing office, medical, and education uses clustered in this area. We have Kaiser Medical Office Building, San Joaquin Valley College located in this district, along with the planned Cherry Street Transit Center, which hopefully one day will be located here. And the transit center could present the opportunity for some transit-oriented development to support the feasibility of the future planned transit station. This district also can capitalize on its visibility from the freeway and good accessibility that's going to result from the future French Valley interchange. People will easily be able to access this district coming across from Inez and Date Street across the 15 to Cherry Street once that interchange is constructed. It also could provide a place for large employers and educational institutions to locate in the future. And just a definition of transit-oriented development, just so you understand that terminology. I know it's used oftentimes a lot by planners. It's moderate to higher density development located within an easy walk of a major transit stop, generally with a mix of residential, employment, and shopping opportunities designed for the pedestrian without excluding the auto. And so here are some example images. The first one is Smart Corner in downtown San Diego, and this project is high-rise residential built near a trolley station so people can live here, jump on the trolley, get around town. It's easily accessible and convenient. Image 2 is a picture from Long Beach. This is their transit mall. And this project is served by both bus rapid transit and light rail. And images 3 and 4, both of these pictures come from Otay Ranch in Chula Vista. This is a mixed-use development project. It has commercial retail on the bottom with residential above, and it's served by bus rapid transit. So District 10, we've identified as an active, passive, open space and recreation district. And this district is generally located over the detention basin, and the planned trail system that we know will be coming into this area kind of acts as the district anchor. Also, the detention basin has the potential as an open space amenity and also to provide some recreational opportunities for future residents that may be living in the area. And these amenities have the potential to support the feasibility of residential. And here are some photo examples. The first one is a multi-use trail in Scottsdale, Arizona. Image 2 is a picture of the soccer field at Pat Birdsall Park, which we may see something like this in the detention basin area. And image 3 is a picture of a multi-use trail adjacent to a creek. And so with that, these are all 10 of the conceptual districts combined together, and we end up with 10 different, each with their own varying uses, varying character. Each district kind of operates in and of itself, but also has a relationship and synergy with all the surrounding districts. So with that, that's the conclusion of my presentation. I'd like to have Frank Miller come on up, and he's going to be discussing the physical form and character approach to identifying districts.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie. Time is tight, so I will just charge ahead. The two approaches that Katie mentioned to planning land use is one to talk about uses, and I'm going to talk about the alternative approach, which is to focus more on physical form. And the interesting part about Jefferson Corridor is that many of you will recall in the 70s and 80s, it was sort of the center of Temecula. It was the grocery stores, it was the retail, it was the center of commercial activity. The mall came in, 79 South became developed, and this area has, I think, lost a lot of business to those other areas. So, and that's part of the reason we're here tonight and during all these workshops is we want your help to think of ideas for what this area can be over the next 5, 10, and up to 30 years out. So some of the ideas and concepts you're getting presented tonight are some that really may not happen for decades. And part of the city's role, of course, is to present these ideas for you to think about. The Old Town and the mall represent almost opposite approaches to how to design streets in urban areas. And I'm going to spend a fair amount of time talking about road layouts and so forth. Old Town was a grid of streets, common in the 19th century, small blocks, easy to walk, with alleys so that there was servicing from behind and front entrances on the streets. The mall, of course, was a completely different image. It was a ring road with a sea of parking with a building in the middle. And that was a very common model throughout the 80s and 90s. The original layout of the mall is on the right, and of course the recent improvements to the mall are on the left. And you can see it's actually beginning to be divided into blocks, which are more pedestrian scaled. And this is a common trend throughout the United States, that old-fashioned malls are being, streets are being introduced to them to make them more pedestrian friendly. Key street design issues that would influence what can happen in a district are the size of blocks, the width of streets, how close the buildings are to the street, the value of street frontage, and the value of alleys. And I'll go through these 5 relatively quickly. Number 1, block size. Smaller blocks tend to be more pedestrian friendly. Accessibility is easier to walk around the block and get back to your car or to wherever you were. Wayfinding tends to be easier with smaller blocks. And I'll show some examples contrasting this issue. Smaller blocks tend to be more human scaled as opposed to dividing up blocks in larger ones, which are more appropriate for cars traveling at higher speeds. And smaller blocks encourage this sort of park once concept, which is where you park your car in an area, you get out of it, and then you can walk around and do a number of things before you get back in your car. Much of new development that occurs coast to coast, you get in your car, you go to the grocery store, you get back in your car, and you go to the pharmacy, you get back in your car, you go to the dry cleaners, you get back in your car, you go to the lumber yard. That the car is an essential piece to bridge between these different uses. On the left, this is a city, a town somewhere else. And you can see that the original layout included a mall inside the ring road and a series of other streets. On the right is a proposed redevelopment of that town, which divides it into smaller blocks. And as you can see, divides the mall into a series of smaller blocks too, creating kind of its own small district. Okay, second topic, the width of the streets. The narrower the street, the slower the traffic goes. And that can be either good or bad depending upon whether you're in the car or not, or if you're in a hurry or not, or if you have a retail store on that street. Narrower streets, if the traffic is slower, it tends to be safer for pedestrians and bicycles. It tends to be quieter. On-street parking tends to be easier to get in and out of. If cars are going zipping by really quick, it's hard to parallel park. And D, businesses become more visible from cars when the cars are going more slowly. And a lot of people shop from their car. You'll drive around, you'll see things, and you'll make a mental note that, oh yeah, there's that store, I haven't been there lately, I might need, you know, a new filter for my air cleaner on my lawnmower, and I'll come back. Two examples. On the left, a wide street, which is Jefferson Avenue, and that really, the message I see is to go fast, right? There's nothing that impedes you from except the speed limit, from going as fast as you want. On the right is a street in Santa Ana, which is narrower, has diagonal parking in this case, and probably is a good analog to Old Town. People are moving more slowly, they have to stop periodically. And there you can actually see the storefronts and so forth. Okay, the third issue, how close the buildings are to the street. And buildings closer to the street tend to make more intimate streetscapes. And buildings closer to the street also tend to provide more shade for pedestrians and some shelter from the wind. Also, as I mentioned, businesses are more visible and it's easier to attract customers. Now, for example, in streetscape A, when you're driving along, you can see it's very easy to ease over into a parking spot and go to that store. When on the right, if the buildings are very far away from the street, you have to resort to other means to attract your customers. And Mr. Duck, we think he's a duck. And I don't know if on the right behind him you can see Mr. Chicken is back there too. Someone thinks he's on his cell phone, but you see these wild ways to attract customers to your stores, and it can be argued that the picture on the left does a very efficient job of that, much better than the duck. Number 4, the issue of the value of street frontage. When you have very big blocks, you don't have a lot of street frontage. And the ability of property to generate income is enhanced by the number of people who pass by it, whether they're walking or biking or driving. Businesses with street frontage obviously are more visible to customers, existing and potential customers, and visibility increases property value. So the net result is that smaller blocks tend to increase property value. And that's been an experience. And in a future workshop, we're going to talk about economic issues relative to the future development of this district. 2 examples, Jefferson Avenue on the left, which is a long block, so long you can't even see the next street. And on the right, an example of smaller block. The 5th topic is the value of alleys. And alleys basically separate service functionings from the front door and the customers. And they do a good job of that. They got a bad rap for a long time in big cities where there was crime in the alleys or something. But here's what you can gain with alleys. You can avoid conflicts between delivery trucks and customers. And that's a shot from Old Town. Cars can't park there, and the trucks sort of blocking traffic. They also allow you to put your trash in the back and keep it away from customers. And this is in Gas Lamp District, actually. Trash day, it's really not that fun to walk down the sidewalks. And number 3, you can put pedestals and wires and utilities in the alleys and clean up the streetscape and make it easier for people to access businesses. You'll notice in Old Town there's times when there's big electrical transformers or something, which makes it actually hard to get to the business. So that's the value of alleys. 2 quick case studies in terms of streets. It's possible that in the next 30 years in this district, new streets will be created. And this is two hypothetical examples of how that might occur. The first area that I'm going to look at is in the southern area, between Montezuma in the north down past Rancho. And to compare existing conditions, the existing perimeter of those blocks is around 3,300 feet. It's about a 30-minute walk. So it's not a very pedestrian-scaled thing. compared with Old Town, where it takes about 10 minutes to go around the block. One possible introduction of a street is in red, a reddish color there, to the existing streetscape. And you'll notice I've taken property lines off, and what this is an attempt just to conceptually illustrate what's possible. So those could be 2 new streets. Those could be new alleys that could be introduced in red. And that would result in a street grid that looks like on the left, where the perimeter of the block is about a 13-minute walk, compared with the 10-minute walk in Old Town. So you could create a kind of fabric of streets which is comparable to Old Town, but could serve the needs that are and uses that are appropriate in the Jefferson Avenue area. The other issue is the amount of frontage. We talked about that. The more frontage you have, the more visibility the businesses have to customers. Right now, there's about 9,400 linear feet of frontage in the existing conditions. With the new blocks, there's several times that, at 55% more of it, to be more exact. That is a benefit to businesses. It's also good for residential districts, and we'll talk about that. To compare that with Santa Ana has about an 8-minute walk around the block, and these hypothetical new blocks are about 13 minutes. Here's a picture of Santa Ana. Their blocks are 250 feet by 250 feet, which is actually very small, arguably too small for any new development. But this is the streetscape. I think it was the same picture from before that you get with those small blocks. You can actually see where the next street is, and you have a sense of scale as a pedestrian. Jefferson Avenue, some of the blocks are 2,000 feet long, and same picture where you can't even tell where the next street is. To look at more detail at that southern area, one concept that will be employed in planning this area in the future are the notion of building envelopes. And a building envelope is a container in which a building may be built, and the building has to fall within it. So if I go back, there's the shape that you're building. You can design whatever you want according to the architectural design codes and the rules that would be part of the specific plan, and we just need to fit inside that. So this is a concept that will be part of the future specific plan. Building envelopes can be 40 feet high, which can accommodate a 3-story building. There's some examples of 3-story buildings. You could do 75-foot high building envelopes for up to 5-story buildings. A couple of examples there. You could do 115-foot high building envelopes in which 7 or 8-story buildings would appear. Now, each of those different heights create very different characters for districts within this area. So the building height question is one that we want you to think about. We want you to think about the kind of character that you would consider desirable for this area in the future. One more example is you can have a building envelope that goes up, say, 75 feet, and then the final floors are set back, so from the street it doesn't look like quite as tall a building. Here's a couple examples of buildings where the upper floors are set back. The final case study, B, which is in the northern area, is related to the case study that was done previously. You'll see some images on the back wall. You can look at those later. Comparison, the Old Town is about a 1,420 linear foot perimeter. The Stater Brothers block is over a mile if you're going to walk around that block. The case study we did during the previous workshop took the Stater Brothers property and did some explorations of how that could be redeveloped in the future. There's kind of a street grid that looks like what I'm showing here, where red was developed and the white is the street. For this hypothetical exercise, I dropped that plan into the Stater Brothers site. Then I show a hypothetical street that could connect through to Ryder Street, another hypothetical street that could go to the north, connect with Enterprise Circle and Jefferson Avenue, and another one which could be the extension of Commerce Center Drive. If you then added alleys to that, to the existing and hypothetical streets, you end up with a street grid that looks like what you see on the left. It's different in scale than Old Town, which is fine, but by comparison with Santa Ana at the same scale. So that gives you an example, a hypothetical example of how you could do streets. Now, any new streets that will happen will be because people decide to develop their own property and decide it's in their interest to add a street. The city is not going to say, okay, we're going to put streets here, here, and here. I think the city would probably support any efforts to create smaller blocks and a more walkable and pedestrian environment. So in recap, then I'm done. Here is the entire study area, and in red are the new streets that I introduced through those 2 case studies. So this